In today's news, Premier admits some vulnerable persons become susceptible to crime. Dr. Wheatley weighs in on emancipation celebrations and vulgar music, and opposition bashes government for $100,000 for businesses affected by recent road project. These and more stories when To It For News returns.
Across the BVI, the fastest, most reliable, and affordable fiber internet service is here for you. Look out for fire in these new locations: Slaney, Duff Bottom, Manual Reef, Seacouse Bay, Albion, Hannah's, Palestina, Pleasant Valley, and Havers. Fiber is in your area. Call 444-4444 or visit a CCT store to find out more and bring it home. More locations coming soon.
Welcome to the Thursday, August 21st edition of To It For News. I am Jacques Wooding, bringing you the latest out of the British Virgin Islands. Thank you so much for joining us. Premier Dr. Natalia Wheatley has admitted there are a lot of young people who are vulnerable and are not getting the assistance they need. Hence, they end up choosing a life of crime. He said it is their duty as a government to ensure they put the necessary mechanisms in place to help those persons. Premier Wheatley was at the time discussing the issue of crime during the Honestly Speaking program with host Claude Skelton-Klein on Tuesday evening. He said crime is a complex issue by nature, and he was not in agreement that a lack of employment is fueling the problem.
It's very simplistic to say you don't have crime if you have lots of employment in the country. And I think it's even dangerous to send that message. When, you know, and we could go on about this subject because I know there'll be various responses to what I'm about to say. But before the Virgin Islands had anything at all, you know, we didn't have the economy we had. We were in abject poverty in the Virgin Islands. You know, we found a way to make things happen for ourselves legally through hard work. We issue hundreds and thousands of work permits every year, and it's not because we don't have persons here to work. So we have challenges as it pertains to ensuring that persons who are unemployed can work. It's not because there's not the availability of jobs. You know, jobs are available. We have a skills gap in some instances, but we have other things happening in our society so that even if there's a job to do, somebody may choose to go with the fast and the quick money. They'll choose to go with what they believe can result in expensive jewelry, expensive cars, and a certain type of lifestyle as opposed to hard work. And all of those things we have to examine. And that's the type of, when I speak about taking control of our society, I'm speaking about all of that. I'm speaking about our values, our morals, how we raise our children. That has a lot to do with committing crime.
At the same time, the Premier stated that vulnerable persons become susceptible to crime.
Let's say, for instance, you have children having children, for instance. You know, they have to work. They can't pay attention to the children at home. Children at home are only, you know, they're in front of the television, or they're vulnerable to the people in their community who may prey on them, who may be involved in criminal behavior. They become a vulnerable group. Perhaps maybe you know, the persons are not getting the type of assistance they need. I see real life examples, Claude, in my community of persons I know We know they're struggling. You know, these might have been persons we were able to help when we were able to have out the money that we give out, that representatives used to get. And I'm not saying that, of course, we shouldn't have had a system which was more transparent and accountable. But some of these persons, you just know they're not getting the type of help that they need to get. And then I see some of the young children in the household drifting. And then all of a sudden you see them on the street corner. And you know what is happening there. So we have a lot that we have to take a look at in our society if we were to confront crime. We can't just blame lack of construction that's taking place. You know, lots of persons are walking here. I mean, if you look at the amount of persons actually walking, it's a high percentage of the population is actually walking. We started a program, a rated program, where persons who are unemployed have the opportunity to do some landscaping, and we're going to add some other aspects of the program so persons can learn some skills. We've had some persons who interned with government. You know, in some situations, you have a hard time finding persons who are unemployed now to participate in the program. You know, so we are addressing the challenge of unemployment. Now, construction is about to ramp up. We have $100 million loan, and construction is about to ramp up. But I'm always very cautious and careful, Claude, about trying to blame a lack of employment, crime, and unemployment, because I believe that crime, above all else, is a mindset.
Premier Wheatley is calling for a wider discussion on cultural expression and social responsibility after concerns were raised about vulgar performances at this year's Emancipation Village. More in this report. Premier Dr. Natalia Wheatley has called for a broader conversation on cultural expression and societal responsibility, following concerns raised about a vulgar performance during this year's Emancipation Village. Speaking as a guest on the radio program, Honestly Speaking with Claude Skelton-Klein, Dr. Wheatley was asked about an artist whose performance was categorized as vulgar. In response, the Premier said the issue could not be reduced to one performer alone. He argued that the lyrics performed are a reflection of wider societal realities, and noted that the influence of explicit or suggestive content can be found across multiple platforms.
No, I think, you know, based on what you have observed on that particular night and other nights, I would say that we've lost focus on emancipation. And hopefully our discussion on independence today, persons won't see as completely irrelevant to the subject. Yes. But if we are trying to achieve a particular result in celebrating emancipation, then we would do the whole thing completely differently. We would do it differently than how we're doing it, without a shadow of a doubt. Now, I don't know, half the time I don't know who the artists are that they're bringing, but the artists that they bring are a reflection of the society. I want persons to know. And you see the village jam-packed because the people in the village want to see and hear these artists. They're familiar with their music and not particularly perturbed by the content of the lyrics. Persons have it on their radios. It's being played on the radio. Yeah. It's being played on the television. It's being played on the internet. So they're already, you know, the stage, in my view, I mean, we could speak about that, you know, from a symbolic perspective, but the persons are already exposed to this type of thing. So we need to get real about it. All we're seeing out in the open is what already exists.
The Premier also pointed out that the celebration of emancipation should not lose sight of its historical significance and urged citizens to consider how cultural events can uplift rather than degrade community values.
Do we as leaders have a responsibility to lead and steer persons in a particular direction? Absolutely, by all means, but not necessarily just by censoring or prohibiting, but having a conversation with the people and trying to lead them by focusing on what it is we're seeking to do as a community and as a society.
He further stressed that the discussion is not as simple as it seems, adding that it will take community effort to bring back focus to the meaning of emancipation.
For me, it's complex. No one can celebrate emancipation on their own or by themselves. You need the participation of people. And as a community, we have to get more focused on the purpose that we're trying to promote and focus on our ethics and our values as a community, not necessarily by somebody saying, do this or don't do this.
Coming up, PAHO warns Americas could be falling behind in vaccination coverage. And more stories when To It For News returns.
My name is Henry Bosch. I work for PPG. I'm here to explain to you the use of the Deltron NXT paint line and Enviro-based high performance, one being solvent-borne and the next being waterborne. The difference is that one is totally manufactured with rosins and thinners and all the good stuff that solvents bring versus our new technology, which is waterborne, which is 100% latex. What we're gonna do is that we reduce the solvent-borne with a DT885, which is a mid-temp reducer, and the waterborne uses T494, which is a waterborne reducer. We will today be using either DCU 2042, which is a speed clear, or we will be using DCU 2021, which is a classic. We have here our equipment. We have 8-ounce measuring cups, and we also have our 32-ounce mixing cup. We will also have with us our Venturi. This is a blower for us to dry the waterborne paint, which speeds up the process. The good thing about waterborne paint is that as soon as it evaporates, you're good to go. So now Gilligan will dilute the waterborne paint with the waterborne reducer. We made 8 ounces, that would be 1.6 ounce. It always has to be properly mixed until we get an even mixture within the paint mixing cup. So when we spray, we don't see uneven coats of color. So right now we're filling our paint gun with 8 ounces of diluted paint. We're gonna see how far 8 ounces will take us. Waterborne paint seems to look blotchy on your first coat. Don't pay no mind to that. Don't try to achieve full coverage on your first spray. Excellent. Let it dry. So the process in waterborne is 2 even coats, and then we have what we call a dust coat. Well, now we're gonna have Mr. Brown apply the first coat of clear on his waterborne panel. We'll let it flash off, and then he'll come back and coat it with his second coat to finish it off. As you had seen in the previous shots, we had a little blotchiness, and you'll see some patches. That's all due on purpose to sandpaper to prove that with Enviro-based high performance, all technicians, the body work has to end at 800 grit or plus. Well, Enviro-based is like we're trying to shift everyone into that slowly but surely. The entire west coast of the United States and all of Canada has already been on waterborne for the past 10 years. And now soon it'll be the eastern seaboard, which covers the Caribbean. So when that happens, we'll all be affected. So it's best to start now, start trying and applying waterborne, because eventually everyone will be on it. And referring to technicians, it's less harmful because it doesn't have all the toxic chemicals that solvent-borne paints do.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Some members of the opposition are taking issue with the government allocating $100,000 from the recently passed SAP in the House of Assembly to assist just 4 businesses in the 7th District. During a press conference last week, 2nd District Representative Melvin Mitch Turnbull said they made the discovery and those monies are to assist the businesses affected by the ongoing work on the Hodges Creek Paraquita Bay Road project. Turnbull said the government members are spending monies as if it's from their own personal bank accounts.
And one of the things that came up when the Premier was asked to break down the monies that were allocated, because in the budget or in the SAP you would see a subhead and then you would see notes on the side. I mean, it basically categorize everything together. But if you're diligent like we are, we ask for the details. So we got from, I think it was over some $500,000 or $600,000. We got the details, and then we kept digging, and we were like, okay, well, you shot $100,000. What did that for? And it was like, the businesses that in the Fatags Bay area, between Paraquita Bay and Fatags Bob's, they were affected by the inconvenience of the road work. So $100,000 grant was given to them. So it worked out to be about, I think, either 20 or 20 something $1,000 to each of those businesses that were inconvenienced. And the leader opposition raised it in his contribution that $100,000 were given to those businesses for inconvenience for whatever 4 or 6 months or whatever the case may be, but not even $150,000 were given in the Small Business Development Bureau for entrepreneurs and small businesses who are struggling or who are trying to get into business. So for the territory, you only budget $150,000, but in this inconvenience in your district, specifically in your district, and I could guarantee then there has been no production of evidence of the books of what these businesses would have earned or been able to earn if they were not inconvenienced. And I guarantee you $20,000 for each one. So this is the kind of things that if we don't probe and we don't continue to ask, we won't know the answers to it. Just like we found out about the $300,000 for the Uber Soca cruise. Those were things that is all lumped together. And the Premier has been and continues to be reluctant in how he answers it. I can't remember that. And then when you dig a little bit further, we don't have that information in front of us. So everybody is being nonchalant about the people's money because they're spending it as if it's theirs.
Leader of the opposition, Myron Walwyn, said the Premier arbitrarily put aside $100,000 and echoed Turnbull's comments about other businesses not benefiting from such funds.
Actually, it was $127,000 that was budgeted for small businesses. We've been saying to him for the longest time, businesses are having a difficult time staying afloat. Small businesses, that's the engine of the economy. People are employed there. They get a chance to pay for their mortgages. They get a chance to pay rent. They get a chance to pay for food and so on. They support the economy. Any sensible government would make sure that the small businesses are thriving well because that is where your tax base resides. You place $127,000 to be shared among almost 3,000 small businesses throughout the entire territory of the Virgin Islands. And you place the most onerous conditions on them to get that money. Suppose you see the laundry list of things that the people are supposed to give, including all kind of things about good standings. Would people who could afford to pay their bills come to you asking for a grant? That should be a separate arrangement. You help the businesses to get strong enough so that they can address all the issues that they're supposed to address. But here, because those businesses are in your district, you arbitrarily put $100,000 with no stipulations attached to it to give out to those businesses. And you give to those businesses because of your negligence. Why it taking almost a year for a little piece of road like that to be completed? And then you turn around now, after the inconvenience to the people of the country, you end up and take up more of their money, $100,000, arbitrarily, just because it's your district and you're looking votes.
In regional news, Jamaican authorities have confirmed the capture of the 9th and final prisoner who escaped from the Constant Spring lockup on Tuesday. 19-year-old Alonzo Espute of Cassava Peace, Kingston, who is facing a murder charge, was the last fugitive at large. He has since been taken into custody. With Espute's arrest, all 9 escapees are now behind bars once again. Police say the men broke free by breaking through a grill and metal door at the facility. 8 of them were quickly recaptured following the jailbreak. Meanwhile, despite notable progress in achieving up to 90% coverage for most viral diseases, global health experts stress that there is urgent need for sustainable improvements in all countries to ensure long-term success and equity in disease prevention efforts. More in this report. The Pan American Health Organization is warning that vaccination coverage across the Americas has slipped in recent years, raising the risk of outbreaks of vaccine-preventable diseases. Vaccination coverage refers to the percentage of people in a population who have received a specific vaccine or set of vaccines. It is typically measured as the proportion of individuals in a target group, like children under 5 or adults over 65, who have been fully immunized according to national or international guidelines. Speaking during a webinar on advances and challenges in immunization, Dr. Danielle Salas, Unit Chief of PAHO's Comprehensive Family Immunization Program, said the region was once on track toward strong and sustainable coverage, but has since fallen behind.
But we have fallen behind now, so we cannot rest here. We need to continue working, to continue improving our programs, our monitoring and immunization programs.
For diseases like measles, the coverage dropped for the second dosage. Dr. Salas warns that although there is support, this is simply not a good thing.
In 2024, for rubella, measles, and mumps, we went from 87 and 89% coverage to a second doses that only had a coverage of 76 to 79%. And this is not good news because, as we know, there's been a lot of outbreaks of measles in different countries. And the outbreak consolidation has been quite severe. And we have been supporting during these outbreaks. However, this is not enough.
He emphasized that although there has been progress in achieving up to 90% coverage for various diseases, it is essential to ensure sustainable improvements across all countries.
For example, the third doses of conjugated pneumococcal vaccine went to 88% in coverage. And for hepatitis B, we went from 71% to 78% coverage. And this is a good step towards eradication. We were able also to sustain coverage at 90%. However, we have not succeeded in reaching 90% as expected for HPV. We have only reached 76% of people who have received at least only one dose. This is progress, but this shouldn't give us this false perception that we are improving, because we are not improving in a sustainable, in a sustained way in all countries.
According to Dr. Salas, the gaps in coverage need to be filled for some countries so that the risk of any possible outbreak can be lowered.
7 countries out of the 45% countries in the territory have a coverage under 80%. And we also have 80 countries that have quitting rates that are over 50%. And we are in risk of reaching gaps that can create a potential for outbreaks and a potential for a risk of falling behind in the eradication of some of these vaccine-preventable diseases, which is our goal.
He urged governments, health systems, and communities to step up efforts to prevent gaps in coverage, particularly among vulnerable groups and those in underserved or remote areas. Up next, BVI artist proud to represent the BVI at CARIFESTA. When To It for News returns.
Life is unpredictable, and when a storm is coming, Having a plan can make all the difference.
We need a plan in case of a hurricane. Everyone, let's work together on this.
This is where we go in case if we need to evacuate. This is safe away from flood zones.
I will use this room as our secure space if we have to stay home.
Don't forget to save our local contacts and also our off-island contacts.
Right, and we need to have a plan for our pets too. They can't go to shelters, so we need a safe place for them.
In case we get separated, we should have a meeting spot. How about the community center?
That's good, and we can leave a note there too.
I feel safe knowing we have a plan.
With a plan, you're not just preparing for the worst, you're taking control of the situation. A message from the Department of Disaster Management and 284 Media.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. The British Virgin Islands will be represented by a 53-member delegation at this year's CARIFESTA, joining some of the Caribbean's top creative talents. Among them is Nadia Turnbull, a talented animator and graphic artist, eager to share her work. More in this report. Local animator and graphic artist Nadia Turnbull is proudly representing the British Virgin Islands at this year's Caribbean Festival of Arts, CARIFESTA, set to take place in Barbados, bringing her talents to one of the region's most prestigious cultural events. Turnbull delivered remarks on behalf of the delegation going to Barbados to participate in the festival this year. She expressed her excitement and deep sense of pride in being selected as part of the national delegation, emphasizing the importance of art.
For me, the arts are more than performance or talent. They are a language, a way to tell our stories, to celebrate where we come from, to dream about where we can go. When young people are exposed to the arts, we gain confidence, creativity, and discipline. We learn to collaborate, to express ourselves authentically, and to see the world through fresh perspectives.
CARIFESTA, which brings together artists, performers, writers, and creatives from across the Caribbean, provides a platform for cultural exchange, collaboration, and celebration. Turnbull shared that while art has been a big part of her personal journey, it is also important in shaping the country's identity.
As a country, investing in the arts strengthens our cultural identity. It preserves our traditions while giving us new ways to share the Virgin Islands story with the world. At CARIFESTA, we are not only representing ourselves, we are carrying the spirit, history, and pride of our people onto a regional stage. I am honored to be a part of this journey, and I hope our participation inspires other young Virgin Islanders to follow their passions, whether it's in the arts or any other field. Because together, we can keep our culture vibrant, our stories alive, and our voices strong.
The BVI delegation includes a range of cultural ambassadors, including musicians, dancers, visual artists, and writers, all aiming to share the richness and diversity of the territory's heritage with the wider Caribbean. CARIFESTA is scheduled to run from August 22nd to 31st, with a packed calendar of exhibitions, performances, and workshops. And that's it for today's news roundup. Be sure to follow us for daily news updates at 284media.com, like us on Facebook at 284media, and 284BVI on Instagram and X, formerly Twitter. I am Jacques Wooding, and I am hoping to see you again tomorrow when we return for our final daily newscast of this week, and then again for our Saturday news roundup. See you there. Have a safe evening.